Hey, congratulations on your film, Slashback.
Thank you.
But more of a congratulations that this is being showcased at South by Southwest this year. How do you feel about that?
I'm very excited. Our cast is very excited to be joining us. We haven't been together in a little while, so we're going to be seeing each other on Saturday. I can't wait.
That is exciting for everyone. That's for sure. So let's ask that simple question: where did the original idea came from for your story?
Yeah, I think that it was. I mean, I've had this idea for a while. I think I was like, I've always loved alien invasion movies. I've always loved kids horror and adventure, these action adventure movies, and growing up in Nunavut, where I was you kind of can go and have these amazing adventures with your friends in this really beautiful environment, and in the summer in particular with its 24-hour sunlight. It just seemed like a great place for a movie like this. And when I started telling people about the idea, and I have lots of ideas I'm always telling people about, and this one was one that kind of stuck. I could just tell that it was something that people were responding to, the idea of girls from this remote community fighting aliens.
How did you choose this community as your setting for your film? I'm assuming you're not from that area, right?
I'm from Nunavut. I'm actually from another community that's very similar in size to Pang. It's Igloolik, which is in the Arctic as well, but it's very flat. It's an island and stunningly beautiful as well. Pang is a place that I've filmed before. I had done a documentary when I was I think in college still, about the tradition of square dancing that exists in these pockets of the Arctic, because the Scottish whalers in the 1800s would whale in Canada's Arctic and stop in certain communities, and there was different trade. And one of the things that whalers would often do is leave musical instruments, fiddles, accordion, in these communities, and square dancing has become like Inuit tradition in certain pockets of the Arctic. And so I had done a documentary about that and completely fell in love with the place. It's absolutely unlike any other community in the Arctic that I've been to. It's in the middle of the fjords, these huge, gigantic mountains that kind of encircle the community. And then a few years after I'd done that documentary, my brother actually fell in love with a girl from Pang, and they had two kids, my nephews, and they're just the cutest and the greatest. And so for me, the idea of them being able to grow up with this alien invasion movie that's filmed in their hometown was kind of cool.
So when you started a production like that, like in a small remote town like Pang, they probably never seen any type of film production ever. So how do you prepare for something like that, and how do you prepare them for this?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that was really helpful is in Canada, we have something that's called the Pathways and Protocols, which is a document that was developed in partnership with the Imaginative Film Institute and Ontario Creates, which is basically a guide to how to kind of engage with Indigenous communities when you're working in film and television. And that was really helpful to me, because I could also then go to my producers and be like, these are the steps that we need to take. And part of that was asking the community if we could do this, and going to Pang and going to the council and communicating in English and in Inuktitut what we wanted, and then ask permission. And so once we got permission to film, we had to figure out how to make that happen, because you're right, the community itself, if you're familiar with film production, there are certain things that you just kind of expect, like panel vans to carry your equipment or something, and those things that don't necessarily exist up in this community. And it's not like we can fly in vehicles. And so even for food for the community, they get that shipped in, flown in to the grocery store. And then in the springtime, ships come in. So the prices of everything are kind of like more expensive right before the ships go in, because everybody's like, there's less stuff on the shelves. And so for us to kind of come in as this crew, we were going to be taking away the community's food. Like we were really going to be displacing the community by just being there. So we had to fly in our own extra food to the co-op, the grocery store. And we had to bring in 60 beds and mattresses and turn the grade school and the high school into where we lived. We turned classrooms into bedrooms for our crew and cast. And we had all of our meals in the gym cooked for us. And it was a crazy logistical thing to figure out. But in the end, I think it was important to the movie, and it was something where we really needed the community to be on board, because we need people to be driving us on boats to locations, driving us around, and not to mention it's just we need crew, and we also wanted to be including mentorship and training for Indigenous crew within every department. And so it's there was a real there was this movie that we were doing, and then this kind of like separate capacity building work / just community engagement that had to happen.
Did you keep the young girls that you have are wonderful in this movie? Did you keep the cast local, or you had to search far and wide?
Yeah, the cast, I actually, some of them I cast out of Iqaluit, which is the capital city, and that really was because I started casting when I didn't have even producers. I was I had gotten a small amount of funds to do a proof of concept, essentially, that I got from Nunavut Film Commission, and I was able to just hold acting workshops, essentially out of my parents' house, but also through this arts organization, Kagyabut. And we, instead of doing formal auditions that I felt might, just not kind of be, that it might kind of make some people feel bad or like a competition. I was trying to do something that could, for young people that might not be actors or familiar with it, the audition process could still be rewarding. And so we had acting workshops with this amazing local theater actor who has experience in film and television, Christine Tutu, and she had helped me with these acting workshops for young women. And in that process, we found some of the cast, and then developed this proof of concept. And then eventually, once we had our producers, were able to finish our casting, and yeah, so the process of finding the girls was something that kind of happened pretty organically, but some of the cast was involved before even my producers were.
Wow. And for those people who are in the creature features for your film, did you get like contortionists to be in those costumes, because their
Wow.
movements are pretty freaky if I actually had to see them.
Yeah, the movements were so cool. And so we had this amazing, he goes by Twisty Troy on Instagram, and you should definitely check out his stuff because he's incredible. He is a contortionist. He was born completely double jointed in every joint. It's crazy. And so he can do crazy stuff with his body, and trying to figure out with these aliens that they're made up of all these tentacles and take over the skins of animals. So it was like, how do you create these kind of like creepy sporadic movements that tentacles would, if they were in like a human skin body trying to like move around, like how would that work? And if you weren't kind of familiar with like the traditional walking, like would you then like try and use the other limbs? And so that was a really fun process. And then we had another dancer and stunt double, Ophelio, who would match a lot of those movements if we needed two people on screen at once. And if there were stunts that the aliens were doing, then it was usually Ophelio. If it was more of those contortionist movements, then it was often then it was Troy.
That is amazing. Well, let me wrap it up with one more question, and I'm just curious, is because you input so much Inuit culture into this film, but I want to know is, what is country food?
Country food is basically the food that you would get on the land by hunting, and that's basically if you and I were to go up to Nunavut and someone were to invite us over for a lunch or something at their house, often it would be on their kitchen floor that with cardboard would be kind of laid down on the floor because it gets messy. This is often raw meat or frozen meat, and it's being cut right on the floor, and it's like shared food. And so so that might be seal, caribou, Arctic char, and yeah. So I think that was something for the character of Maika. It was just like she associated country food with Inukness and indigeneity, and because she was processing shame and in her indigeneity, that was something that was kind of a trigger for her.
Well, I get to learn stuff every single day. So thank you very much for carrying this conversation with us. This is I do have to admit, this is a terrifying children's movie. It has to be. So thank you, and enjoy South by Southwest.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next time.
Thank you.